Hey guys, this is the NadaLottaKeepers predictions for week 1. If you see me looking over there, it's just because I'm watching the Minnesota-New Orleans game. We're going to start with first-person puker versus drink gamble whore. Let's take a look at quarterbacks. First-person puker is going with Carson Palmer versus drink gamble whore's Aaron Rodgers. They're actually rated pretty equally, and to be quite honest with you, I can't disagree. I actually think Carson could even do better. But on the other hand, I actually think Aaron Rodgers could do better. So whatever each of them do better, I think will be a wash. The way I'm doing these projections is I'm only going to talk about, the difference between what Yahoo projected, and is that a right on number, or is it a high number or a low number? Then we'll look at the total score in the end and see if did Yahoo get it right or did they get it wrong. Adrian Peterson they have with 25 points. He's sitting with 3. And the start of the second quarter's already happened, so you almost go, yeah, that's enough points. I don't necessarily think it is. I still think, running backs need a little time, and if, you got a horse like him, you just keep feeding him the rock, and, you'll get the points. Now, if they get behind in points, then they might not be able to give it to him as much, so that could hurt. So 25 is probably fairly accurate, but maybe more like 30. Steven Jackson, I just don't like him. 20 points could be accurate, could be low, could be high. I just don't. I just don't like the guy. 21 points is accurate. The flex position, first-person puker has Pierre Thomas versus drink gamble whores going with Jeremy Maclin. Pierre Thomas has about a 4-point advantage. I actually agree with all of that. I don't feel like Pierre is going to do that great against Minnesota. Minnesota's always had a good run defense, or at least in the last few years. They got to stop Adrian in practice, so they know probably how to stop good runners. I love Pierre, but I don't feel like he's going to do that much better. He's got a little upside there, but not a lot. Jeremy Maclin, I don't feel like he's got too much upside there. Let's move on to the wide receivers. First-person pukers going with Reggie Wayne, Roddy White, and Michael Crabtree versus drink gamble whores, Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, and Hakeem Nicks. I don't see anything major sticking out that I feel like Yahoo is wrong. It's interesting that drink gamble whore went with Fitzgerald and Bolden. I know people did that last year and the year before when they were on the same team, and I kind of didn't like it when they were on the same team. Now that they're on different teams, I actually think it's okay. I feel like the numbers are right again. So far, I don't think I've seen any kind of advantage. I think the numbers that Yahoo's got pretty right on. But I'm not going to talk about kickers in general, just because unless there's a big differential in points, I just don't feel like kickers bring that much to the game. But I will talk about defenses, because I think defenses are majorly important. Looking at defenses, you got San Fran versus Seattle and Baltimore versus the Jets. I like Baltimore versus the Jets. I do feel like there's a little bit of an upside there. San Francisco versus Seattle, though, I don't necessarily agree with Yahoo's predictions there. I think San Francisco versus Seattle could be much higher. But I'm going to say that whatever advantage Baltimore would get over the Jets and Sanchez throwing INTs left and right, I'm going to say that's going to be about the same advantage. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think the advantage is first-person puker. And interestingly enough, in the league picks, drink gamble whore picked against himself. We'll go to the next game. Alien Hemorrhoids versus the NFL Knowles. Hemorrhoids is going with Tom Brady for QB, and the Knowles is going with Brett Favre. I do think that Tom Brady Cincinnati game, I do think that's going to be kind of a shootout. So slight advantage maybe there. Not sure Brett Favre is ready this first week. Slight advantage to Alien Hemorrhoids. Looking at the running backs, we got Hemorrhoids with Jamal Charles and Sean Green versus the Knowles, CJ Spiller and Ronnie Brown. Both teams, for being a keeper league, have pretty sucky running backs. The only one out of the 4 I would even want on my team is Jamal Charles, and I still think Thomas is going to take a lot of carries from him. I think Thomas is going to take a lot of points from him. So no real upside there. I think Yahoo's got it pretty much right on. The Knowles have Terrell Owens, Wes Welker, and Percy Harvin versus Aliens, Randy Moss, Brandon Marshall, and Dallas Clark. Who's going to do better versus what they have posted here? I think Brandon Marshall could probably do better. Wes Welker, I don't know if he's ready. Terrell Owens could do better. I think that's a wash. Again, I think it's a wash. Defense, Dallas versus Washington, Miami versus Buffalo. Actually, probably like the Miami pick better than the Dallas pick. So I'm going to tell you something. This is going to be, because of that, I think this is going to be a much closer game. I just don't think Buffalo's got jack. I mean, come on, they basically ruined T.O.'s career. I think the Knowles is going to be an upset here, with the defense of Miami versus Buffalo being an advantage over Dallas versus Washington for alien hemorrhoids. Moving on. Where's My Jack and Coke versus Something's Gotta Give? What do we got here? We have Peyton Manning at Houston for Jack and Coke versus Breeze at Minnesota for Something's Gotta Give. Now, Breeze already has 20 of his 36 points, and he got it in the first quarter. I think it's going to be safe to say that he'll probably breach that 36-point mark. I don't think Manning will do much better, though. I think 39 points is probably a pretty high score at this juncture. Let's move on to the running backs. Jack and Coke's got Frank Gore and Ryan Matthews versus Something's Gotta Give's Ryan Grant and LaShawn McCoy. I'm not a big Ryan Matthews fan. I'm not sure I believe in him like everybody else does, but I will say that the combo of Frank Gore and Ryan Matthews should obliterate Ryan Grant and LaShawn McCoy. On paper, you got to give the advantage to Jack and Coke. Let's look at the wide receiving core. Jack and Coke, again, going with Vernon Davis and Steve Smith, I think, in every league. He might even have Antonio Gates in the other league. That might be his 3 wide receivers in both leagues. I don't know. He seems to always like those guys. He always likes Antonio Gates. Seems like he gets them every year. Something's Got to Give. He's got Megatron, Miles Austin, and Greg Jennings. I'm going to say I love that group, and I think that group has much greater potential to do better than the numbers they have posted. The defense, Pittsburgh at Atlanta, San Diego at KC. I talked about this in Back for More's video. I don't think the Pittsburgh will do that well versus Atlanta. And San Diego versus KC, I actually think San Diego could do better. On Yahoo scoring, they have Where's My Jack and Coke about 2 points ahead. It looks like maybe even less than 2 points ahead of Something's Gotta Give. But I'm giving Something's Gotta Give at least 5 extra points. At least 5. So I think Something's Gotta Give is going to win here. I'm picking another upset from Yahoo's predictions. We'll see if I'm right. You guys, if you disagree, feel free to post some smack back. The last matchup of Not a Lotta is Ruskin Ramblers versus the Eucharist. You gotta love the names that Zach picks. At least he picks names I can absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, come up with a picture for it within, 5 minutes. Where I think I sat in front of the computer for like 3 hours over various days trying to come up with a picture for Something's Gotta Give when he won. And he's been all whiny since I haven't done his picture, but I'm sorry, you just picked bad names. Ruskin Ramblers is going with Phillip Rivers versus KC, and Eucharist is going with Tony Romo versus Washington. Love Romo, love Rivers. I think it's a wash. I think both of them could probably do better than the numbers they have showing, but they will probably do equally better, so it's a wash. Moving on to the running backs. Ruskin Ramblers going with Joseph Adai and Chris Johnson. Anyway, Ruskin Ramblers, please move Chris Johnson to your running back slot and move Joseph Adai down your flex slot. Seeing Joseph Adai go with the first overall pick in the draft because of the way the keepers settings were just looks so horrible to me. It looks so bad. Looking at Chris Johnson versus Maurice Jones-Drew, I don't think either one of them will probably do much better than what their numbers say. I mean, they do have good numbers. I think Yahoo's got them fairly accurate. So maybe slight advantage Ruskin, but not enough for me to really, come right out and give them an advantage. Moving on to the wide receivers. Ruskin Ramblers going with the good Steve Smith, Deshaun Jackson and Chad Ochocinco. The Eucharist is going with Andre Johnson, Jermichael Finley, and Dwayne Bowe. Not really a huge fan of Jermichael Finley and Dwayne Bowe. Jermichael Finley's fine. I mean, and if you're in a tight end league, Jermichael Finley absolutely probably comes off the board, as the 5th tight end or 4th tight end. So that's fine. But in our league, he'll be okay. And I'm not sure why the Eucharist has to go with him. I'm not looking at each player's teams to see if they should be playing somebody else. I'm not going to get into that because these need to be quicker. I think Chad Ochocinco could probably do better than what he's got there. Deshaun could do better than what he's got there. Steve Smith, not sure. Andre Johnson, maybe better, but, I'm going to give a slight advantage to the Ruskin Ramblers again. I'm going to say that maybe he could do slightly better. I didn't actually talk about the flex spots with Joseph Adai and Arian Foster, but I feel like they're probably pretty equal, and that's going to be interesting because they're going to be running against one another. Looking at defenses, New York Jets versus Baltimore, New Orleans versus Minnesota. I actually don't like the Jets play this week. You know, Revis being a distraction, maybe, you know, mess the guys up, and now, you know, they want them to play and have no excuses, blah, blah, blah. You got your money, now shut the hell up, whatever it is. New Orleans only got 9 points. I mean, obviously, I'm seeing what they have right now. I don't think they'll have that when all is said. Oh, never mind. As soon as I said that, they just intercepted Favre. Now New Orleans has more than 25 points. What do you get for an interception in my league? 4 points? Is that right? So they got 29 points now. So will they end up with, you know, in the 20s? Are they going to beat that 9.82? It's tough. I wouldn't think so. I think Minnesota, they're not really gelled right yet, but I think when they come back from halftime, I think you're going to see some more gelling, and really on both teams. I think both these teams will probably come out a little bit better, and maybe there'll be a little bit more of a shootout in the second half. I think right now the score is like 7-3 or something like that. Well, actually, it tells me right there, yeah, 7-3. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for now. Again, smack back or be smacked.
Twist, twist, twist.